Good evening, East Alabama. Welcome into the locker room on this Tuesday afternoon. Hope you've all had a great Tuesday so far. Today, we're going to take a look at our EAN scoreboard and recap scores from the area yesterday here in East Alabama. Also, today, we're going to preview Week 1. It is officially Week 1 of the high school football season here in the state of Alabama. Last week was technically Week 0. I'm one of them people, I just think it should be Week 1 to Week 11. But it was technically Week 0 according to the Alabama High School Athletics Association. So this week is Week 1. We're going to preview all of the Week 1 games that feature our teams right here in East Alabama in the Calhoun County, Cleveland County, Etowah County area. And going to do a couple Talladega County games. Big rivalry game this week between Mumford and Lincoln. We're going to talk about all of those games today on the locker room. Hey, I want to remind you to hit that like and follow button on our East Alabama Now page so that you don't miss the locker room. We're here every weekday, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. That's right. We are back to 5 days a week. Also, we have our East Alabama Now news tonight at 6:30 p.m. Mike Stedham and Katie Edwards have your local news. John Holder has your local weather. And Jordan Smith brings you your local sports. All right, yesterday we brought back our EAN scoreboard. It's the first time we have had our EAN scoreboard since last school year. What is back? And so we're going to start the show by going back to our EAN scoreboard just like we did yesterday. And let's start with volleyball action from last night. The Donahoe Falcons and Mumford Lions went head-to-head. These two teams played at Oxford. It would be Donahoe that got the win over Mumford, 26-24 and 25-9. They beat Mumford in 2 sets. Hey, yesterday Donahoe had a great day. They went 1-1, but Kate Williman had 3 kills and 14 digs. Sam Wakefield had 26 kills, 2 aces, 23 digs. Riles Jones had 6 kills, 1 dig, 6 blocks. Callie Taylor had 3 kills, 45 assists, 15 digs. Ava Michaels had 4 kills, 2 digs. Bentley Palman had 1 assist, 22 digs. Chloe Melton had 1 ace, 6 digs, 1 block. Alana Maldonado had 7 kills, 3 blocks. And Anna Kate Whitson had 6 digs. Overall, yesterday, the Donahoe Falcons did get the win over Mumford. Donahoe in their second game went head-to-head with Oxford, and it would be the Yellow Jackets that got the win over the Falcons. Oxford defeated Donahoe in 3 sets. Oxford won a set 25-23, 27-25, and 15-9. The Yellow Jackets actually swept yesterday. Not only did they defeat the Donahoe Falcons yesterday at home, Oxford also defeated the Mumford Lions in 2 sets. And of course, in those 2 sets, Oxford won those 2 sets. They beat Mumford 25-12 and 25-18. And then their final game yesterday at home was against Cleveland County, the Tigers. They made the trip to Oxford, and Oxford swept them in 3 sets as they defeated Cleveland County 25-13, 25-14, 25-7. Overall, yesterday, I got to tell you what, we're only about a week into the schedule, but Peyton Brooks is off to an unbelievable start. She had last night, between their quad match, she had 27 digs, 105 assists. That is triple digits. That is impressive. Erilyn Poole had 38 digs. Dalen Bozeman had 26 kills. Malia Prince had 53 kills. And Jaslyn Montgomery had 19 kills as the Oxford Yellow Jackets swept last night at home as they hosted the Donahoe Falcons, Cleveland County Tigers, and the Mumford Lions. Some action that didn't happen last night. White Plains was at home, and White Plains, well, they started off against Ohatchee, but Ohatchee would get the win over White Plains. They actually swept last night. They defeated White Plains in Faith Christian. They defeated White Plains in 3 sets. They won a set 25-18. Pardon me. It should have been 2-1. They won in 3 sets, but won 2 sets. One set 25-18. Won a set 15-8, and lost a set 28-26. And then against Faith Christian, I believe it was the same thing. Should be, yeah. So it was really 2-1. 2-1. They didn't sweep all 3 sets. They won 2 sets and lost a set, so I do apologize for that. So against White Plains won a set 28-26. Ohatchee won the other 2 sets 25-18, 15-18, or 15-8. And against Faith Christian won a set 25-23, and then Ohatchee won a set 25-15 and 15-13. But regardless, Ohatchee swept last night White Plains. Rebecca Henderson had 17 kills, 5 aces, 14 digs. Alana Fitch had 11 kills, 9 aces, 11 digs, 18 assists. Ayla Crook had 4 kills, 3 aces, 10 digs. Brett Finn had 2 kills, 4 aces, 3 blocks. Emily Riddle had 2 kills, 3 blocks. Kate Ryan had 12 assists, 5 digs. And Savannah Reeves had 21 digs. Ultimately, Ohatchee, though, would go to White Plains last night, and the Indians would get the sweep, as Rebecca Hughes' team, off to a good start to the season, swept last night, almost swept this past weekend. They lost to Oxford in 4 sets, but they beat Jacksonville and Oneonta. So really good start for, I think, Ohatchee last year. They had a really tough lineup there at regionals where they lined up with Plainview. And when you line up with Plainview, who ended up winning the 3A state championship at regionals, they didn't get an opportunity to go to state, even though I feel like they were probably one of the best 8 teams in the state. And when you look at Rebecca Henderson and Alana Fitch, those are the first 2 players that stand out to me when you look at Ohatchee. And you got to think that Rebecca Hughes has a team this year. Now, Westbrook Christian's going to be tough. Glencoe's traditionally good. But I think Ohatchee is a team that people really need to keep an eye on in Class 3A this year, because I'm not just thinking, oh, they can get to state this year. But no, I think this is a team that is capable of winning a game or 2 at state. I really think Rebecca Henderson, Alana Fitch leading this team. And again, it's not just those 2. They have other pieces around them as well. I mean, you talk about Ayla Crook, Brett Finn, who I mentioned, Emily Riddle, Kate Ryan. Savannah Reese is a really, really good player. I mean, you cannot speak enough about Savannah Reese and what she brings to the table for Ohatchee. So, a lot has went on with Ohatchee. Of course, Rebecca's been through a lot. But, man, this team has answered adversity head on and been really good. And so I think they're going to have a great season. And Oxford, how about the Yellow Jackets? Wendy McKibben's team is off to an incredible start. Swept the tournament this past weekend, swept yesterday. I mean, they're playing really good volleyball. Now, I know they're not playing necessarily 6A competition yet, but now they're playing really good. Like Donahoe's a contender in 3A, played Jacksonville this past weekend as a contender in 5A. Ohatchee's a contender in 3A. They're playing really good teams. Like, they're playing some teams that, may not be 6A level, but they're top teams in their classification. So she's still scheduling good local teams, and so I think that's one thing that sticks out about Oxford to me. And then Cleveland County and Mumford, getting to see both of those teams in action as well. You get to see a little bit about them. So that's our EA and scoreboard from yesterday. Hey, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to break down 8 different high school football games that are taking place here in East Alabama for our week 1 of high school football season. So don't go away. We'll be right back as we continue on The Locker Room.
We live in a world that moves quickly, and while we are able to connect faster than ever through technology, maybe you've noticed that real connection is hard to come by. Parker Memorial Baptist Church offers you a place to connect, a place to learn more about Jesus and the difference He can make in your life, a place to build relationships with like-minded believers, or maybe discover what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ. A place to use the gifts and talents God has given you. A place where we love God and we love you. Parker Memorial Baptist Church, 1205 Quintard Avenue, Anniston. Visit our website for details.
We are back on The Locker Room on this Tuesday afternoon. We are now going to preview high school football week 1 games that are taking place this week here in the state of Alabama. And last week was week 0. Already saw Ohatchee and New Hope putting up over 70 points apiece, breaking state records, coming in the top 3 of state records. So a lot happened in week 0. Gadsden City had a big win in week 0 over Muscle Shoals. Also, the Coosa Christian Conquerors went down to South Georgia, played a 2-time state champion under Coach Herring down in Georgia. And how about Ryan Herring, by the way, what he's done down in South Georgia? That's what I was about to mention there. Also, Coach Swain, defense coordinator down there at Pierce County, Georgia. Coosa Christian went there. That game only makes you better if you come out healthy. So a lot of key things happen in week 0 that are already setting the tone for the season. But the first game we're going to preview today, it's a rivalry game, and it features the Jacksonville Golden Eagles going on the road this week to face the Alexandria Valley Cubs. Now, last year, Alexandria went 1-9. It was a little bit of a rare season for the Valley Cubs to only get 1 win. They, of course, lost 6 seniors from a year ago. 5 of those were starters. But they have one of the best kickers in the state of Alabama in Clete Forrest. This is a guy that has college offers. You're also going to see players like E.J. Hunter, quarterback Cole Wheeler, Ryan Brown at middle linebacker, Dean Boxley on the line, Parker Namath, Cooper Bridges, J.J. Beeson. There's a lot of players that are going to contribute to Alexandria this season and hope to get them back in the winning ways that they're used to being in. And so this is a rivalry game. These teams play, of course, every year. It's always a pretty fun rivalry between these 2 schools. They like to take it, pretty far and stuff. Now, Jacksonville did play a week ago at Etowah. So this is Jacksonville's 2nd game of the season. They did get the win over Etowah last week. And, of course, all the questions about Jacksonville this season were going to be, how do you replace Jim Ogle, right? Jim Ogle was an incredible quarterback for Jacksonville. He's moved on. to Murray State now, where he's playing for his dad. But they have a really good offensive line. Drake Lee is a great guy. Braden Ball, two great offensive line for them. And then, of course, Zay English ran the ball last year, had an incredible game for Jacksonville. And Jackson Bonner taking pretty much the quarterback role. So I think this is going to be a great game. And I'm not going to make picks, just kind of previewing these games. But the first game is Alexandria and Jacksonville. Second game we're going to talk about is the Spring Garden Panthers and the Pleasant Valley Raiders. Both of these teams played last week, so this is their second game. Both of them got a win last week. That's right. Spring Garden started their season with a win over Sandrock, and they were at home. Of course, they're entering their second season under Coach Barrett Ragsdale, and it was another successful season last year. They went 7-4, were runner-up in 1A Region 6, ended up losing in the to the playoffs to Cooster Christian. Really, they only lost two key losses, the biggest one, of course, being quarterback Chapel Pope. They have a large senior class, 12 seniors, by the way. Connor Bates, Noah Barber, Hayes Garvin. But for me, I got to look at Jacob Welch, who is a big-time player for Spring Garden on the defensive line. And how about his brother, John Welsh? Those two Welsh brothers right there. John Welsh being a wide receiver, defensive back. Two big players for Spring Garden. I think Barrett Ragsdale and the Spring Garden Panthers are going to continue to do big things. And they're going on the road to face, again, talk about improvement. Pleasant Valley is as improved as anybody. Now, last year you may look at the record and went, well, Namath, they went 5-6. Yeah, but they made the playoffs. And Pleasant Valley hadn't made the playoffs in a very long time. I'm big on them. They got a win last week over West End. And they lost Connor Crump, which was a big loss. Lost Holt Bentley, Jeremiah Jones, Bryce Freeman. But again, you look at Braxton Salster at quarterback, only a sophomore. Jaden Sparks and Hunter Sparks, two really good players. Noah Johnson's a solid tight end option for them. And then I look at linebacker Braden Papa. So a lot of talent for Jonathan Nix this year. And again, I'm not going to make a pick, but this game is at Pleasant Valley. Next game is Sacs and Piedmont. I got to tell you, I saw all I needed to see from Piedmont in the first week to go ahead and tell you I think they're the favorite in this region. I thought Ohatchee or Westbrook could give them a run. I think Ohatchee, of course, was impressive to score 70-plus points. That offense is going to be very hard to stop. But the defense gave up 70-plus points. And so that's something I'm sure Chris Finley's team is trying to get fixed before they play Locust Fork this week. We're going to talk about that game in a little bit. But Piedmont, I mean, good gosh, Raleigh Pinto, Ishmael Bethel. And how about what Cole Wilson did getting them the ball, distributing the ball? I was very impressed by Jonathan Miller's Piedmont Bulldogs team last week. And again, Piedmont, a lot of injuries last year. They lost 16 seniors from a year ago. McLean Mohan, Trevor Pike, Luke Reinhart, Chance Murphy, and Fisher Adams were big seniors. But again, Cole Wilson had a big game last week. Cale Alston's a great linebacker for them. Caleb Tidwell is a great linebacker. So a really good defense. I think a very underrated defense. Everybody talks about Raleigh Pinto, Ishmael Bethel, which they should, of course. You got running back Hayes Gunn, which is a good running back. But I look at this defense. Brody Holmesley at linebacker, Davion Stidis, Demetrius Owen. Again, I just kind of talked about Cale Alston, Caleb Tidwell. Very underrated defense that I think is going to be really, really good this year for Piedmont. And they're going to be going on the road to Sacs this week. Sacs lost last week to Horseshoe Bend. They lost their opening game. Sacs went 1-9 a year ago. Coach Alfonso Freeney is entering his second year. I think for them, you got to look at Mason Stevens, who's an outside linebacker, and of course, Ja'Cory Avery at wide receiver. Those are probably the two most talented players for them. LaJuan Curry comes back from a shoulder injury. He has a ton of speed. Ja'Cory Avery, again, we just mentioned, is going to be a big player for them. But, of course, I think you got to look at this one. I think maybe Piedmont is going to overmatch them a little bit. The next game is a rivalry game, and it features the Lincoln Golden Bears and the Mumford Lions. These two teams typically play Week 5. Well, they're playing early this year. First team we're going to talk about is the away team this year, and that is the Lincoln Golden Bears. Of course, Lincoln entering another season under Coach Matt Zedeker. He's done great things. The Golden Bears, though, not a good season last year. They went 4-6. They lost 13 seniors from a year ago, but they do bring back Noah Shedron. They have, of course, Mason Hill, who's a really good kicker, Tyshawn Beck, who's a good skill player for them. So they do have some players that are going to contribute for their success. They lost last week to Shelby County, so they did lose their opening game. They're going to be going on the road to Mumford for the rivalry game this year. Mumford played in a jamboree last week. They did lose that jamboree to Welborn, but it's just a jamboree. You got to look at Amari Tank Edmondson at running back, one of the most talented running backs in the area. Hunter Sparks is a really good defensive player for Mumford, and of course Mumford went 3-7 last year. So I think offensive line, defensive line will be big this year for Mumford and their success. Big rivalry game at Mumford. Next game we're talking about, Thursday night football, Hoax Bluff and Southside. These two teams always kick the season off. This year, the away team is Southside, so Southside's going on the road. Southside did play a week ago. They're going to come in on this game, being their second game of the season. Hoax Bluff played in a jamboree game. Southside did play Gunnersville. They lost that game at home. They finished 8-3 a season ago. They did lose Mason Teague, which was a big loss for them. But everybody looks at Jamin Brown, the Duke commit for Southside. Also, you got to talk about, of course, outside of him, they have a really good offensive line. On defense, McCade Wright is a good player for them. Jordan Bryan is a good player for Southside. So, second game, they're looking to get their first win of the season. Or Ben Stewart's looking to get his first win of his coaching career as a head coach at Southside as they go on the road to Hoax Bluff. And, of course, they played the legend, Mike Robertson, in the Hoax Bluff Eagles. And Hoax Bluff went 5-6 last year. They lost 9 seniors. Dylan Lancaster probably being the biggest one. But he brings back really talented offensive lineman in Dalen Reeves. Has a really good tight end in Colton Shields. Anderson Morgan's arguably the best player on that team. He can hand off to Connor Ford. So Logan Wyman's a good player. So Hoax Bluff has some talented pieces. This will be a Thursday night game that'll be at Hoax Bluff. The final game we're going to talk about this segment is the Westbrook Christian Warriors and the Glencoe Yellow Jackets. How about Glencoe going on the road last week to Southeastern? Good start for Scott Martin's team. This will be their second game of the season. It'll be the first game of the season for Westbrook Christian. They played in a jamboree last week against Hoax Bluff. Glencoe entering year number 3 under Scott Martin. They went 3-7 a year ago. Their biggest losses were on the line with Jordan Haney and Lucas Huff. But they bring back a 1,000-yard rusher this year. So, and, it starts up front, though. Dawson Rhodes, Preston Reeves, J.T. Hancock. They got Carter Cook, at tight end. But Aaron Mann's that 1,000-yard rusher who's going to continue to tote the ball for Glencoe. And again, they're playing Westbrook Christian. This is an area game, 9-team region. So an area game this early in the season. Second season for Westbrook under Steve Smith. They went 5-5 a year ago. They lost 15 seniors from a year ago. But I think you got to keep an eye on Eric Kirkpatrick, Cade Sanders, Hudson Lowe. Those are offensive linemen for them. I think on the defensive line, you got to look at Ian Shaw, defensive backs, Jackson Ramsey, Max Legg. They got Noah Wright. I think, again, just kind of a really underrated defense for Steve Smith and the Westbrook Christian Warriors. And I think that's going to be a good game as well for both of those teams to kind of see where they're at in region play. All right, that's 8 games. We got 8 more. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to preview more Week 1 games as we lead up to Thursday night here on Week 1 of high school football. Hey, we'll be right back. Don't go away as we continue on the Locker Room.
For over 60 years, Oxford Lumber has been servicing our area, and our customer service has always been our main focus. Our customer service is what sets us apart from anyone else. From the moment you enter, our highly trained staff will treat you like family.
To enthusiastically provide total customer satisfaction within a positive and self-fulfilling employee relations environment. Visit us at any of our 4 locations or at oxfordlumber.com.
Since 1993, WM Grocery has been a major part of our local community. WM offers the very best in fresh produce and an outstanding meat department. WM also has many local products not found anywhere else and fresh sushi every day. If you need an event catered, come see Mrs. K at any WM store. Curbside pickup is also available for your online grocery orders. Be sure to download the WM app for all the deals of the week and shopper rewards. Go check them out today at any of their locations.
We take pride in our community and appreciate your business.
For metal buildings in Alabama and the Southeast, Waldrop Manufacturing is your one-stop source. A Waldrop metal building provides the coverage and protection your investments need. They specialize in carports, RV covers, portable buildings, and storage buildings. Stop paying rent for storage. With Waldrop's price per foot, you can actually save money by buying straight from the manufacturer. Waldrop buildings are guaranteed because Waldrop manufactures buildings with U.S. steel right here in Calhoun County. Waldrop Manufacturing, serving the entire Southeast. Give them a call today.
We continue on the Locker Room on this Tuesday afternoon. I apologize. We only did 6 games in the last segment instead of 8, so that means this segment we're going to do 10 games, so we don't need to waste any time. We need to get right back into it. All right, let's start with Gadsden City. They won last week, again, over Muscle Shoals in what may end up being one of the games of the year. Well, this week, Gadsden City continuing that tough schedule that Coach Ollie Smith put together. They are going to go on the road to face Hewitt Trustful. Now, Gadsden City went 9-4 last year. They did lose 14 seniors, including, of course, the biggest one, Drake Kirkpatrick Jr., who went to Alabama. But they brought back some talented players. You got T.J. Worthy They've got Matthew Sparks, Alex Swafford, Taylor Barber, Nehemiah Samples, other players like Zion Gibson, Chris Butler, Kai Franklin, Keyshawn Curry, James Woods. So a lot of talent for Ollie Smith's team. They open with a win over Hewitt-Trussville. They go on the road this week to Hewitt-Trussville to face the Huskies. Next game we're going to talk about is the Raglan Purple Devils and the Donahoe Falcons. Unfortunately for Donahoe, they lost their opening game of the season under Coach Smith against Galesville. So they'll be back in action this week. And, of course, they'll be playing at home where they'll be playing Raglan. So the Purple Devils are coming to them. Raglan went 6-5 last year. Coach Wes Tidwell leading this team. They lost Ethan Courtney, who was a big linebacker for them. But they do have Aaron Lee back at running back. He had over 1,500 yards a year ago. Tacorian Souls is a big player for them. Jagger Cox is the quarterback for Raglan. So Raglan's going to Donahoe. When I look at the Falcons of Donahoe, I got to look at, of course, Kai Kleckler. That's the first guy that comes to mind for me. He's the quarterback. Also look at Beef Johnson, who's a big offensive tackle / defensive end for the Donahoe Falcons. Those are the first two players. Cash Worley is a good player for them. James Binkwith. So those are Hayes Farrell. So again, I kind of mentioned Jordan Cameron. I mean, there's a lot of good players for Donahoe. So we'll see how they compete in 1A Region 6 this year. They're going head-to-head with Raglan this week. Next game, Cleveland County played Anniston last week in a jamboree. Well, Von Lee's first regular season game will be at home this week, and it will be against Sardis. Sardis makes the trip to Cleveland County. Von Lee's taking over a program. They went 4-7 a year ago. Austin Mayfield at wide receiver for them. Hunter Gore on the offensive line. Xander Martin on the offensive line. So really good, experienced offensive line. They did lose Jake Dingler to graduation. He was a big-time player. He's moved on now. Braden Beam was a good player for them. Gray Freeman. But I think you got to look at, of course, these other guys. Kendall Miller was hurt. He's going to be a big playmaker for them. Kate Schubert is going to be as good. Carter Hughes. Again, so a lot of good players for Cleveland County. They open up against Sardis this week at home. Coosa Christian Conquerors went down to South Georgia last week to face Pierce County, a top team in South Georgia. Well, the Conquerors are going on the road to face a 6A team this week in the Pell City Panthers. Pell City played last week against Pelham, got a win. And Coosa Christian, again, I think you look at the first thing with Coosa Christian, John David Justice at quarterback, one of the most underrated quarterbacks. This team that was technically 13-2 last year, if you take away, the forfeits and whatnot. 10 seniors did go away, but only 3 of those were starters. They returned, of course, Cleto Bryant, who's an all-state linebacker. Alongside of him is another linebacker in Cade Mickler. They got Joseph East, John David Justice at quarterback. Grayson Malone's an all-state player. Eli Moats, and other guys like Radley Mays, Zayden Franklin, DJ Mackey. The talent is unbelievable for Coosa Christian this year under Marco Bryant, and they feel like they have another team that is capable of making a push. They're going to Pell City where they're going to face Nick Gentry, who's taking over this Pell City program that went 2-8 last year. Pell City, of course, was 1-9, but forfeit. They really won 2 games. But the big loss, of course, Rush Probst, right? He resigned during the offseason. Nick Gentry takes over this program. They offensively got Caleb Jenkins leading the way at quarterback. John David Probst, of course, is a playmaker on the outside. Malik Watts, who's currently committed to Louisiana Monroe, is in the trenches. So defensively, Jordan Woods is headed to Troy as of right now. Jamari Johnson may be the fastest player for them. And they've got a good kicker in Brooks Lemonak. So really talented team for Pell City. Coosa Christian's going to go on the road to face them this week. Anniston Bulldogs played in a jamboree last week. Well, this week they're going to open up their regular season at home on that new turf as Anniston will play Beauregard. Interesting game, non-region game. Beauregard will make the trip to Anniston, so they'll come up north a little bit from the east side of the state. And Anniston is entering their second year under Rico Jackson. They got a lot of talented players. Got Jabari Williams, who transferred in from Welborn, who'll be a big running back for them. Sharante Bailey is already a big-time player for them. Jamarco Rudolph has been incredible for them, putting in the offseason work. Caleb Moore is a big player. Jalen McEldery, Kamar Holder. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of the talent that Anniston has. It starts, I think, with Sharante Bailey at center and Kamar Holder on the defensive side of the ball. And Anniston will be at home this week hosting Beauregard. Next game, Central Clay Vols. They dominated Hanley last week, and the Central Clay Vols are at home this week where they're going to host Benjamin Russell. Danny Horn's team was 10-1 a year ago, had some injuries, but LaDamian Boyd is back. He exploded last year on the scene, had an ankle injury, ended up missing the playoffs, didn't get to play against UMS Wright. Before that, he had over 1,600 yards rushing, over 20-plus touchdowns. Deshaun Gibbons will be a quarterback for them. He was a great player. So I think you look at Tyler Boyd, who's primed for a breakout season, Damari Whetstone, J.T. Wilkerson, Trenton Glenn, a lot of talent. One of my teams to make a push in 5A this year is the Central Clay Vols. Jeff Smith and the Wellborn Panthers played Mumford in Jamboree last week. J.B. Pennington opened up their season with a dominating win. Wellborn goes on the road to J.B. Pennington this week. And for Coach Jeff Smith, well, you do have to replace Jabari Williams, who transferred, but Wellborn's got a lot of talent. It looks at Ethan Carroll as a tight end for them. He's the first one that stands out to me. Kyle Bright, Dozier Hayes on the line, Raymond Williams, Jackson Newton already holds an offer from Cincinnati. Isaiah Amberson taking over at quarterback. So Wellborn went 7-4 last year, and I like the Panthers in this one. I think Coach Jeff Smith's team is going to be better than people expect this season. Next game is Ranburne and Woodland. Stephen Bailey's team will go on the road to Woodland this week. And Ranburne's coming off a little bit of another kind of tough season under Stephen Bailey. They're moving regions. They're now going to be in 2A Region 4. They went 4-6 a year ago, but Creed Young is going to take over at quarterback. I think he's going to be really good for them. Curtis Daniel in the backfield, Brody Morgan, Aiden Whitman, a lot of running options for them. And Woodland dropped their opening game to Randolph County in the Grocery Bowl game. And the Bobcats were 3-7 a year ago. Kevin Smith takes over this program. David Knowles returns to lead the offense. He had over 700 yards rushing last year. He'll be the premier back. They'll also rely on Andrew Sanchez and Cade Cross and Tobin Pickard. This game, again, I think Ranburne going to Woodland, it's also slightly kind of a little bit of a rivalry game. This next one's a big region game to set the tone. People want to know, how is Locust Fork going to do in this 3A Region 6? Well, we're going to know this Friday when they go head-to-head with Ohatchee. Ohatchee scored 70-plus points last week, broke records, and they have Jake Robertson at quarterback, and that's the first guy that stands out to anybody when you look at Ohatchee, is the guy that's going to be distributing the ball. But also you got to look outside of that. I think you got to look at Colby Hester at the perimeter, Nate and Sam Jones. And again, really talented team. Last year, it was a transfer who came in, did everything for them. So you got a couple transfers going to be really, really good. I think Ohatchee's going to be really good. Biggest thing against Locust Fork, got to slow down the quarterback. They got probably one of the better quarterbacks in the classification. But can Locust Fork play that physical football week in, week out? We're going to find out starting this week. If Ohatchee wants to win this game, if they get in another 74-70 type game, I think they'll win. I think they can get more defense stops, but they got to find a way to play better defense this week. But I do think their offense is going to be able to hang in this if it becomes a track race. And the final game, the Oxford Yellow Jackets going head-to-head with the Moody Blue Devils, and this game will be at Oxford. And how about Coach Sam Adams' team last week? You cannot say enough about going to the state of Georgia and getting a win. That's what they did. Of course, everybody looks at Mason Mims back at quarterback. James Tapley is a great linebacker and tight end for them. And how about Jaden Thomas, a running back? They lost him last year. How about what he did for them, Jaden Thomas and Kamari Hampton? But this year, again, we talked about Mason Mims, but how about DK Wilson, who's going to be a big player for them? But, last week, guys, it was Cedric Twyman. That was the guy. Cedric Twyman had a big game last week for Oxford. And I think they have a really good defense, obviously led by Keenan Brett. So Oxford's really talented. They've got some talented guys that can run the ball. And so we'll continue to see how Oxford does this season. And they host Moody. Moody played, of course, Gainesville, Georgia last week, who came over to the state and played them. And so Moody coming to Oxford this week under Coach Jay Gannis. And that'll be a big game for Moody. All right, that is pretty much our preview of our East Alabama games that are taking place this week for week 1. So, hey, that's going to do it for me today. I just want to say thank you and hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Hey, make sure to check out East Alabama Now News tonight, 6:30 p.m. I'm Namath Pitts. Thank you for watching The Locker Room.